Crystal Waters coming to the ring, member of Spring Break 24/7. She and Sandy Shore carrying on what Callie Ray started years ago here in WoW. Bringing the fun and the sun to the ring, but also looking to get far in the tag team division. We will see if Spring Break 24/7, Sandy Shore and Crystal Waters can make some headway in the tag division, but right now, Crystal Waters is in there in singles competition against BK Rhythm.
But you did this for what?
Why not?
Why?
Why not?
Why though?
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Rights and Wrongs, the Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green, and we got episode 41 of WoW, Newcomers. That is the primary function here, and, you know, I'll be honest with you and say that it is probably not going to take nearly as long as the general reviews would go. This show was... It was a lot of matches. You know, it was the 4 matches that we normally get, but it really did not go anywhere. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line here. I'm not even saying that the matches were bad or anything like that, because I know some people will take what I say and like, oh, I think it's terrible. No, I'm not saying that the matches were bad, but I am saying that the matches are pretty inconsequential. Like, if you missed this show, you didn't miss much. I mean, that's pretty well the bottom line there. If you didn't catch it, if you happen to be in a region that it was preempted or something like that, because I do believe it was preempted in Philly at least for 2 Saturdays in a row, you didn't miss much. And if you want to go and check out the matches, I mean, you're welcome. You should just pop on over to YouTube and go to their channel and check out the matches that they posted. But the things that took place in between it, nothing really connected, nothing really jumped off. So rather than to surround this with other wrestling news, I say let's just go off into this, because I can save that for next week. There's news that should be presented, and I think it would be better for me and probably for the show just to do it during maybe a better episode. So here's hoping that the following episode 42, when that comes around, will be a better one. So this episode, Newcomers, it kicks off with a recap of the Mother Truckers winning their main event match and ending with their saying that they're here to say. This is probably the biggest tie-in to some sort of angle or storyline that we're going to get based in this particular episode. Of course, they got other vignettes and things, but we'll get to those later. The first match or second segment, this is Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball taking on our resident job team, Foxxy Fierce and Chantilly Chella. You know, and I don't even mean that as an insult, but that's pretty much what they are. When you see Foxxy Fierce and Chantilly Chella up on the screen, they are largely there to put over the opponent. Again, nothing wrong with that. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody has to do it. And at this point, that was what I wrote down here. They're the official job team of WoW. I do not expect them to be in the running for any sort of championship. I don't expect them to do anything beyond just having the match and trying to make the next person look good. This is a cold match. It is pretty much a glorified squash match. There's no direction here. Nobody spoke. You know, it's just a match for the sake of having a match. And I really wish that I had more that I could say about it. The other thing that I wrote down here is that they need to make a decision about what they're going to do with Del Rey, because they have bounced her kind of back and forth from singles to tag to singles to back to tag. They need to pick a lane with her and stick with it. this kind of jumping around is pointless, really. I mean, that's pretty much all I can say for it. It is a pointless thing to have. So this, like I said, glorified squash match. Not a lot happening here. They drop Foxxy Fierce and pretty much get the pin on her. You know, I don't know what else I can really add to that. I mean, I guess it is worth noting that they have a tandem finishing move now. I haven't heard a name for it. You know, maybe I overlooked it, but essentially is this. Wrecking Ball seats herself up onto the second ropes, and Reina Del Rey comes up over to her and pretty much places her in like electric chair position. She allows Wrecking Ball to get up on her shoulders. Del Rey then walks her out towards the center of the ring and then kind of flops Wrecking Ball down on whomever their given opponent would happen to be at that time. I mean, you know, I guess I should give let's get a setup for this whole sequence here, because even though it's a squash match, there was an order of operations here that took place. So we can pick up where Foxxy Fierce gets the hot tag, so to speak, and she. For a moment, she does well. You know, the heat was on Chantilly, Chella, and she does well, doing good to evade Reina Del Rey and what have you. Even gets a nice high cross body off the top rope, but Wrecking Ball comes in and makes the save, stops that. This then sets up for Chantilly Chella to return into the ring. So we got all four competitors in there for a moment. Assumably the heel team here, because we can never really tell. Del Rey and Wrecking Ball go for clotheslines on their respective opponents. Chella is able to duck underneath hers. Foxxy Fierce wasn't as fortunate, as she catches a nice clothesline from Wrecking Ball, who pretty much just drives her down to the mat with the clothesline that she got. Chella ducks underneath Del Rey's clothesline, but then she catches herself on the rope so she doesn't rebound, which only allows Del Rey to turn around and then clothesline her out of the ring. Of course, now this sets up for the finish that I just explained to you momentarily. She gets, I shouldn't say momentarily, that I just explained to you a little while ago. She gets Wrecking Ball up on her shoulders, walks her out, boom, drops her on top of Foxxy Fierce. 1, 2, 3, the match is over with. And there we go. I mean, that's pretty much all there was to that. We go from this. I should also mention that they have a pinning combination that would seem completely illegal. I mean, Wrecking Ball and Del Rey are pretty much laying on top of Foxxy Fierce collectively, and then the referee counts anyway. So I guess it's not illegal in Wild Universe. Who knows? Maybe we'll hear about that later on, and when it's conveniently brought up against some heel team that they don't want to win. So we move on to the next segment, which is basically another Lana Star Fabulous 4 segment that she talks about, or I should say the segment talks about her owning all the titles, and they preview the next matches going into that. They talk about new tag teams debuting, but the problem that we have here is that the new tag team that they're talking about is debuting in singles competition. This is something that WoW has done since they debuted the entire promotion in 2001. For whatever reasons, they have this thing about, we can have a tag team, and they would just debut them in singles matches. I didn't get it then, and I don't get it now. It just seems silly. It seems silly, and it seems ridiculous, and like, why are you talking up the fact that they're in a team to begin with if I'm just seeing them in singles competition? So the team that they're talking about is Spring Break 24/7, which is apparently the team of Crystal Waters and Sandy Shore, both of which will be wrestling in the show, although not together. Again, silly. And they also talk this up like the team is, I guess, endorsed by Callie Ray. They're like, yeah, Callie, friends of Callie Ray introduced them to, introduced them to WoW or something along those lines. This is another moment of why. What purpose does Callie Ray, what significance, I should say, does Callie Ray even serve at this point? It's been weeks. First of all, I don't even know that she's on the show at all. She hasn't been there, and I don't know if there's any plans for her to pop in and like, all right, here I am, guys. Some of you out there probably don't even know who I'm talking about because she hasn't been brought up. She hasn't been seen. The name is thrown around every once in a while when it's convenient, or I guess, as I just said, in their universe, having Callie Ray endorse this team, I guess the spiritual successors of their Baywatch knockoff team, the Beach Patrol. So Spring Break 24/7 is the team, but endorsed by Callie Ray, a person who was probably on all of 3 or 4 episodes of WoW in total since, what are we on now? I guess technically they're on season 8. But season 7, where she would have been, most of these did not even air anywhere. They although produced and recorded probably in 2019, they didn't air until 2020. In fact, yeah, that was when I saw Callie Ray, when I went through the entire season of their unreleased episodes. So if you did not go out of your way to look at it on CWC or Pluto TV, you probably have zero idea of who they're talking about when they even bring up Callie Ray. And again, she's no longer associated with the company. So why? Why bother? What's this for? What does this even mean that Callie Ray, somebody who isn't there and probably vaguely remembered, is a shining endorsement of Crystal Waters, who is singularly debuting though she's part of a tag team. So she is debuting against BK Rhythm. Now, BK is, I guess they pretty much figured out her spot in this company. She is not doing anything. If there's a person in here that is just stagnant and really not there for any other purposes other than to provide a match, is BK Rhythm. And I like BK Rhythm, or more specifically, I like Killer Kate. That is her name when she's on the independents. I don't dislike BK Rhythm, because it's not that far cry from Killer Kate, although, I don't recall her ever popping out and cutting a rhyme on some, dropping bars on somebody before the match starts, even though she's not, overwhelmingly good at it. Most people that hear it, especially those that listen to rap on a regular basis, don't particularly embrace it. But she seems as if she's got her position. Her position being, when we have someone new here, we'll put her in the ring with BK Rhythm, and then she can have a match with him and by and large lose. Except for today, for whatever reason, that didn't happen. They went against the grain of what they normally do. At least with BK Rhythm, although they did what I expect them to do with a new face. New faces come on here for whatever reason, you got to lose, and this was no different. They had somebody come in here that they didn't really know, and then they had to come in and lose. Surprise. So you've got the beginning of the match. Rhythm does the same thing that she would normally do. She does her Jane Cena gimmick, and I only use that because I heard somebody say it and I thought it was funny. But yeah, she does her Jane Cena gimmick. She cuts a little rhyme on Crystal Waters, who does not do or say anything. We still don't know anything about her because very few people cut any promos or introduce themselves or talk about themselves unless they're doing it in some sort of long, intricate, drawn-out vignette that tells us about every bit of trauma that they had in their life. This is another pretty to-the-point match. Does not go anywhere. And BK Rhythm wins with a mic check. I really don't even know what else to say about this match beyond that. It's fine. It could be entertaining enough, but when I gauge these shows, I'm gauging it on the entirety of the show and the show on the whole, whether it's going somewhere, whether it's leading to something, whether it's doing something important, and none of those things are happening. It's just BK Rhythm. I mean, even if they were having cold matches, having a little verbal exchange at the beginning might offer up something. But there's really nothing here. It's just here's Crystal Waters and here's BK Rhythm, and BK Rhythm wins, and that's it. She pops her in her mic drop when she gets in that full Nelson. She stopped whatever offense that Crystal Waters was going to do by stomping on her foot, hooks her into a full Nelson, hoists her up, and does her spin drop face first, which is her mic drop, and 1, 2, 3, we're done. That was nothing. It was nothing happening there, and then we just moved on. At this point, I really was questioning where this show was going. I really did. This leads off into the 6th segment of the show. This is a backstage vignette with Ariel Sky, another new face, as the whole theme of this program, except for the first match. Ariel Sky and Randy Rah form Team Spirit. Why? Just because. I will say that they at least led into it a couple of weeks prior with Randy Rah just, making the random statement of, hey, I think we should have a team or something like that. Well, apparently them walking in on Ariel Sky was good enough to form a team because Rah goes into their, ooh, how about her? She's acting like a kid. This basically implies that this team was kind of randomly put together, even though the team has already got like an entrance video. So, I mean, how random could it be? So we got this, and they're put together for no other reason than Ariel Sky happened to be in their locker room, which was addressed by Coach Campanelli. And she has some gymnastics background. And it's like, all right, well, team spirit. I mean, it's the Ariel Sky almost had no say-so in there. It's like, all right, you're part of the team now. I mean, it was a little bit more conversation than that, but it's not like she thought about it or, debate. It was almost as if it was presented as this was entirely Coach Campanelli's decision, and Ariel Sky had very little to do with it, even though she was being invited into this team. But in a kayfabe universe, I mean, just walk with me for a second. We've got this team of Randy Rah and Coach Campanelli, which for all intents and purposes has been a successful team. They won the tag team championships. Granted, they lost it back to the same team, but they won the tag team championships. When they lost it back, they basically transitioned over into a different feud. They won those matches. They won the overall feud with Samantha Smart and her charges. The team works. So I'm not entirely sure what the idea of, hey, coach, we should get another person in the team. They've been successful, so why would you mess up the formula here? And again, I'm talking about this in the kayfabe universe, but for what reason would you add a separate person? Why? There's really no reason to do that. But they did it, and we've got a new team now. It's now Team Spirit. Because Coach Campanelli likes the song from 30 years ago, Smells Like Teen Spirit. I'm sure that song existed before she was born or perhaps the year that she was born, but I know she has no firsthand experience with it, so I can only put this on in the hands of the writers that decided that they wanted her to have that song or have that name based on that song. I also wrote that this episode is poor so far. Matches are fine, but the episode is poor. We go to the next segment. Lana Star handpicks opponents for next week for the Fabulous Four. This is supposedly handpicks, and we're supposed to also find out who this is that will be picked next week. Now, this is what they say in their own show. We're supposed to find out who this opponent is next week on WoW. That was the cliffhanger, I guess, so to speak. That was the tease that was supposed to get you to come back and watch the show the following week. That did not happen, but we will get to that momentarily. Next match, Genesis and Ice Cold versus the newly formed team of Team Spirit, Ariel Sky and Randy Rara, which Coach Campanelli on the outside as the manager. I have highlighted why is this team formed. But I've answered my own question with that because I'm sure, like I said, it was just a matter of we got somebody else here. We need to put them somewhere. I wonder if this is going to lead to something. Now, we've gone weeks and weeks and months even of Randy Rara basically playing and I'm not talking about the performer, mind you. I'm talking about the persona of Randy Rara. So don't be taking offense to this Randy Rara wherever you are out there in the world. But she basically plays the idiot to Coach Campanelli's straight person here, or the leader. She is Lou Costello to her Bud Abbott. That is an old reference. Look it up, kids, if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Or a more modern reference, and even this one's old. She would be the Marlon Wayans to Sean. So she's just there to be the comic relief to whatever Campanelli is doing. And with that, now we've added Ariel Sky, who also appears to have the IQ of a brick. So rather than having the classic comedy duo of Abbott and Costello, now we've collected them into the athletic Three Stooges. So we've Campanelli now assumes the role as Mo, and Ariel Sky and Randy Rara can individually be Larry and Curly, or Curly Joe, or Joe Bessa, whichever, or Shemp, whichever incarnation of the Stooges that you prefer. The match was fine. Again, the matches did not seem bad, although there did seem to be one portion of this that came a bit out of place from Ariel Sky. When the tag goes out for Exile to transition Ice Cold out and Genesis in, and she does her Matrix move to dodge the punch in the face, we'll say, because it could have been a clothesline, could have been a punch, who knows. But when she does that and she gets the advantage on Genesis, she does a hot tag, and it seems like really, really, really early to do a hot tag. She wasn't even in danger. But she, the hot tag being when you stand there, you kind of leap across to your partner because you've been desperately trying to make it to them for all this time. I mean, but she really didn't even have to do that. She was in control. But she did it anyway, which I think, and this is just me, it feels like that takes something off of the match, or the moment at least, when you actually do have to have a hot tag, which she had to have later on. But I think that's a little bit of the psychology of the match that was kind of, that was not buried. What am I looking for here? It wasn't utilized. It would have been better served if that was a one-time thing that you're going to leap across the ring to try to make this tag from nowhere because you're in trouble, rather than I'm going to leap across the ring, or that's just my standard tag. Okay, so there was a couple of rough spots in the match. You know, there was a few, but I also expect that given the experience level of most of the people in here. The members of Exile probably have less than a year experience. I know Aerial Sky is probably less than a year also. Probably just a couple of months if we're really going to be honest. And if Exile do not wrestle anywhere else beyond the Wild, then they have less than a year. They probably have got what they do marathon tapings about three days at a time. So they probably legitimately have 2 weeks within the course of the year that they have match experience. So I really doubt that they are overwhelmingly experienced just because of match time. Now I will put out the disclaimer out because I don't want to put this off because before anybody's like, you said that like it was fact. No, this I cannot prove. I am running the numbers because they do these shows about once in every 3 months or so. They're always about 3 or 4 days, well, about 2 to 3 days worth of tapings. So if you figure that, and you figure they've gone through the entirety of the year already, and probably 3 to 4 tapings so far, yeah, that's about 2 weeks. About 2 weeks worth of actual in-ring experience between the members of Exile. And yes, I will include Ice Cold in that because, why not? She's hanging around the team. She might as well be a part of it. Let's fast forward towards the finish of the match because there's not a lot that's going on here. This is the closest that this show has to an ongoing angle or issue. And it's largely just built on Coach Campanelli and her insistence that they listen to Coach. Outside of that, there's really not much there, but this is the closest. So we get towards the end, and we've got Exile was pretty much taking control of Aerial Sky until she, lo and behold, manages to break herself free. They tried to do some like swing deal where she being Aerial Sky was able to flip through and land on her feet, give both her opponents elbows, and then she leaped across for the hot tag. Now, it's bad enough that the matches are like 5 and 6 minutes long, but, when you do take something off of the hot tag, again, when you've done the hot tag already. So she did the hot tag, didn't really get a response from it because it already took place. But now we got Ra-Ra in. Ra-Ra's doing the cleanup deal. She's taking care of the heel team. And we will also fast forward out of that because Ra-Ra did a good job here. Look, we're certainly not going to doubt or discount anyone's athleticism. She does the flips, she does the cartwheels, does the forward rolls. She seems to do well, in ring wise, but it's just lack of personality, and we won't go into those things right now. Needless to say, somewhere in the course of the match, we've got Campanelli yelling at them instructions. Ice Cold and Genesis are in trouble with all 4 members in because Ra-Ra and Aerial Sky do take control of the match at this point. And they're getting ready to do something, but Campanelli's outside yelling at them, saying, "Go do this." Neither one of them know what they're talking about, and it's visually very clear that they don't know what they're talking about because they got the lines crossed. So we've got a double distraction roll-up by their own manager as she's hollering out instructions to them. Both Ice Cold and Genesis roll up their respective opponents, and they get the pins. So we got a clean win from the heels because of the manager of the babyfaces. This is fine. I just hope that it leads to something. We've had Campanelli be pretty much a jerk to her own partner for weeks now. Again, months. So I would hope that this actually plays into something or it goes somewhere, although I really doubt it. I've lost faith that WoW will have the means, the ability, or the drive, or the want to make that go anywhere. I think they just like having this goofy comedy duo, now a goofy comedy trio. So we will see. If they do go somewhere with it, it'd be great. I mean, the logical path would be Campanelli turning on them and find her own partner, then starting up a feud with Team Spirit. But can we really expect that they're going to do that? Do we really expect them to go that way? I don't know. So they lose. This ends with Campanelli giving them a stern talking to at the end of the match. Them being Ice Cold, Ariel Sky, and Randy Rara. This is a promo that is essentially built to let them know and the audience know that, hey, I'm in charge here, guys. Listen to me, and you do what and we'll win. Y'all didn't win because you didn't listen to Coach, which, of course, in reality, they didn't win because they did listen to Coach. They didn't know what Coach was talking about. She was essentially confusing. The story here, I guess, if we're going to talk about it in terms of what they did physically, would be that Campanelli cost her own team. They were in control, Team Spirit, and she stuck her nose in it, assumably to try to remain important and show that her value to the team, but we don't know that. We'll find out. So they end that, and then they do the whole, okay, put it in here, guys. Everybody puts their hands in there. 1, 2, 3, and they say Team Spirit. She says Coach, and she's like, oh, yeah, we'll work on that. So they are laying out the ego of Coach, but will the ego of Coach go anywhere? Because we've seen the ego of Coach for a long time, and it has not transitioned into anything yet. So who knows? We will stay tuned, I guess, and we will see. Following this, we got another Lana Star, Vickie Lynn segment, and this is prepping the video for Vickie Lynn. This is all basically repeat. Lana Star has to go. You got to go through Vickie Lynn to get what you want. Blah 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 blah. Nothing new here. And this is basically telling you about Vickie Lynn in another upcoming promo about Vickie Lynn. So you got a segment which is telling you that this is coming up, telling you the things that she's going to say within that segment. So we will go to the next segment, which I want to say visually very nicely done. It was vignettes on Selena Majors and Vickie Lynn McCoy. Now, I do not want to make it sound like I didn't appreciate the segment specifically on Selena Majors. It was very nicely done. It recapped her career under the constraints that WoW has. Because I know they don't have footage of her as Bambi, even though they acknowledge her as Bambi in her early career. My only question is, what purpose did this serve? It was very nice to have. It showed who she was, but she's really not on the show. And they did explain that she's a backstage and she's a trainer and that this is what she loves to do now. But without it really relating to something, or her coming on the show, or it acknowledging something backstage, I am not entirely sure why it's there, other than to kind of fill time. Well done. It's a well done thing, but it just didn't seem like it had any particular place in the show. It was just there. It was just kind of there. It would have been better if she was introduced as being like a WoW legend or something along those lines to give it purpose and meaning, or if they had started talking about, hey, look, guys, we're gonna do profiles on the legends of WoW, some of the great names and talents that have been here, both backstage and in the ring or whatever. But that didn't happen, but that's just my view on it. Let me know what you think. This is followed by another Vickie Lynn profile. We've seen a Vickie Lynn profile already, and this is, just as I said, this is rinse and repeat. It's a good promo, but it is pretty much the same promo that we always hear her do at this point. She does it with intensity. She does it with a lot of fire. She is believable, and I like her. But why are we beating this dead horse? If you want to get the title shots, you got to go through me, which has all been clearly proven to be incorrect. But this is what they say, and this is what they have her do. And we will continue on to the main event, which happens to have Vickie Lynn McCoy with Lana Star taking on the other half of Spring Break 24/7 in a singles match. Makes perfect sense to me. Sandy Shore. Again, they announce another team, another brand new team debuting in WoW, and they bring her out in the singles thing, which is stupid. But that's what they do. Lana Star sits down and she does commentary. This is not even a glorified squash match. This is a squash match. And good for Vickie Lynn, because she should remain strong. She should be the one that's in there kind of, throwing her weight around. She should be the one that could go through her opponent. She should be the one to beat people up. If she's going to play the role of the enforcer of the team, this is what she should be doing. There is really, the running theme here is that there has not really been anything behind these matches that would make you turn around and be like, oh, man, you got to watch this match, or something along those lines. These are just matches. And if you want to see the match, then I would suggest popping on their YouTube, or if you got it on DVR, hey, check it out. But there's nothing here. There's nothing in this match. There was nothing in the match in front of it. There was nothing in the match in front of that, and there certainly wasn't the one in the opening match. These are just matches to fill the hour. And I get the same impression with that vignette on Selena Majors, that it was just something there to fill the hour. The winner here was never in doubt. There was a hope spot that Sandy Shore got off at some point, but she did not do much of anything against Vickie Lynn. This was a complete showcase of Vickie Lynn's power and ability. The closest that Shore got is that she did catch Vickie Lynn in the knee with a drop kick, would put her down, and then got her with a face plant, which also opened her up for a close pinfall, but not enough. After she does that, she decides that she's going to get some momentum and charge herself into the rope, she being Sandy Shore. She does, but then Vickie Lynn catches her in that spin out powerbomb, which they called a tornado touchdown, and 1, 2, 3, we're done. Again, where? Why? What is this for? It's good to have a squash match, and that's what we had. It was good to make Vickie Lynn continue to look better and dominant, but outside of that, there's really not a lot of purpose here. I mean, and I think we can agree with that if you've seen the show. But what happens here is after this, WoW advertises Candy Crush as Penelope Pink's opponent. Now remember, about halfway through this show, they told you be sure to tune in next week to see who her opponent is going to be. And then they give that information up at the end of the show anyway. Why? And why is it that this is Candy Crush getting this shot? Now, keep in mind, two stipulations that the Fabulous Four have drilled and the commentators have drilled into the viewership. One, Lana Star handpicks the opponents. So I don't know why in a kayfabe universe this would be a thing that she gets to do, but I accept it. What I don't accept is that she would have picked a Candy Crush. Why would she want Candy Crush to get a shot at the championship? Why would she want anybody who's competent to get a shot at the championship if she was allowed and allotted the time and the means to pick her own opponents for her teams, or her wrestlers, I should say? For what? Why would you pick this person? That doesn't make sense. And the other side of that doesn't make sense is Candy Crush did not go through Vickie Lynn McCoy at all. This whole nonsense of you've got to beat me. Now, they beat this into the ground on this show. You've got to go through me if you want to get to them. Obviously, that is not true. Candy Crush is now advertised to be in the main event of this next program as the opponent for Penelope Pink. Not just her opponent, but the opponent in a championship match. Where was Vickie Lynn for that? Where is she for any of these things that people challenge Miami Sweet Heat or Penelope Pink? Where has she been for any of these? She hasn't been anywhere. This completely contradicts having a heel manager, A, pick your hand-picked opponents, and B, the whole I am the wall by which you have to get over, under, or go through in order for you to challenge for these things. It contradicts all of that. It just immediately takes this situation and disproves it, letting you know that it didn't mean anything. That meant nothing. It's just talk on the microphone. It's just that's all it is, and that's all it's going to be. The show, for the sake of the matches, is fine. As I do recognize that there's always going to be somebody that is just watching this just for the sake of the matches. However good or bad there is, I know that having attractive young women in tight spandex and colorful clothes, probably has a lot to do with some of their viewership. But in this case, watching it for the match, if you are part of that viewership and you just want to see it for the matches, hey, I would say knock yourself out. If you're part of that viewership and you're expecting any of these stipulations to be upheld, if you're part of that viewership and you're expecting these things to kick off an angle or a new storyline, if you're part of that viewership and you're expecting to watch this and see something progress, then I'd skip this show. Just skip it. It is not worth the time or the effort to look at this or go out of your way to look at it. There's not even a match within the show that I'll say, the matches or the show itself might be bad, but the matches are good. You should watch this match. I don't even have that. I do not have that. There's no match here that I would like, you should watch this one. So if I'm going to give you a suggestion of a match that's wild, I'm going to tell you to go back a couple of weeks and find the 8-person tag team match that still remains one of my favorite matches, and it still remains very fun. So that is my WoW suggestion. If you're going to look up anything as related to WoW. Also, I don't remember if I said it before, but I'm certainly about to do it now. Another suggestion I'm going to get, and this relates to the main event, is that there is a bull rope match, a bull rope women's match that exists out there. Now, I think I talked about this before, but I think it's worth bringing back up. And that Vickie Lynn McCoy and her independent alternate ego, I believe Kelsey Lynn, is in a women's bull rope match. And if you haven't seen it, I'm going to say you probably should. It's pretty entertaining. And not for nothing, but she bled all over the place. Like, Vickie Lynn or Kelsey Lynn gets busted open in this match, and she is a freaking mess in this. I think that it would be very entertaining for you to watch, or more importantly, if you have not seen this and you have not seen some of these WoW ladies wrestle in a match outside of WoW, it'll change some of your perspective about them. I think so. And if it gives you any sort of point of reference, I will say this, that the match in and of itself for the women's bull rope match with Kelsey Lynn, Micah Madrid, that match is about the length of a quarter of the entire WoW show. And when I say that, because I know some are like, well, there's only one match in that first quarter anyway. That's true, but they also have a lot of fluff. Walking into the ring, some segments, commercial blocks, things like that. Those things all kind of roll into their first quarter hour or the first 15 minutes. This match, outside of the opening videos and whatnot, this would probably take up a quarter of their show for the length of the match. But certainly worth the watch. So if you have the opportunity, look up women's bull rope match, Kelsey Lynn versus Micah Madrid for TCW Florida. TCW Florida. That is the video that you can catch. I do not get any sort of endorsement deals or anything like that off of it, so this is not me getting anything from it. I just felt like this is worth sharing, and, especially if you want to feel the difference between what goes on between the WoW ladies and sometimes the ladies of the independent circuit. And with that, I think it is time to say that we have covered the entire show. Like I said, there was no reason for this to go longer than what it is. It's just not worth it. The show is probably a very, very poor D-. It's a passable show, but there's not a lot of connectivity in that show versus previous episodes. And I will say this before I go. I fully expect by next week for them to bring up something that happened weeks ago and treat it like, okay, I hope you remember this because the match is coming up next. They need to stop doing that and figure out some way to get this relatively consistent and regular. And with that, folks, I am going to call this an episode, because this episode was so friggin' light. It's nothing to even really talk about there. So, with that, folks, thank you for tuning in. And please go check out our Facebook at WPN Wrestling. That's WPN Wrestling. You can see whatever's new, what's going on. And if you're trying to branch off and find whatever connections or social platforms that the WPN exists under, well, WPN Wrestling is the way to go, because all the links should be there. And with that, folks, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.